Good morning, I'm Dennis Bragg. Thanks for joining us on this Sunday for the Rebound Show from MTN News. Governor Bullock Wednesday expanded his face mask directive to include public and private schools in counties that have at least 4 active cases of COVID-19. He also implored Montanans to follow public health directives, saying it's the only way to get the virus under control right now. The governor said as Montana schools attempt to reopen in the coming weeks, some are considering whether to require or just strongly encourage people to wear face coverings at the schools. He says strongly encouraging isn't enough, so it will be a requirement in those hardest hit counties. He also announced some new business assistance programs, including ones to help live entertainment venues and businesses near the eastern entrance of Glacier National Park. And finally, the governor said the only way to get the virus under control now is to follow public health guidelines and directives, and that many Montanans still aren't doing that.
Take that personal responsibility to carry a mask with you. And mask up when you go to the grocery store, to grab a beer at the brewery, or participate in a gathering, even if it's outdoors. Be mindful of the most vulnerable around you and be extra cautious in how your behavior may impact those more susceptible to severe illness from this virus.
Now, for more information on the entertainment grants and grants for businesses near the eastern entrance of Glacier, you can go to covidrelief.mt.gov for all the information on that. The governor also announced he is doubling the funds available in the Business Stabilization Grant Program to provide working capital for small businesses that have seen their revenues decline as a result of the pandemic. Nearly 8,000 businesses that have already been awarded a business stabilization grant are eligible to receive a second payment equal to the first. And new applicants, as well as applications in progress, are now eligible to receive up to 6 months of working capital of $20,000, whichever is less. Businesses eligible to receive a second grant will be contacted by the Montana Department of Commerce via email and shouldn't submit a second application. A transparency dashboard of awarded funds and a list of all the allocated dollars is also available at the state's website at covidrelief.mt.gov. The state of Montana will be directing $50 million in coronavirus relief funds towards maintaining and expanding child care and support for Montana families. Grants will be available for organizations to ensure and build upon child care for school-aged children during out-of-school hours, and for families with special circumstances requiring in-home care, such as a child who has an underlying health condition like severe asthma or a compromised immune system. $8 million will also be given as supplemental payments to all licenses and registered child care facilities to maintain and expand child care slots. The state says child care is desperately needed right now for many families and a service we can't afford to lose.
Especially related to the pandemic and heading into the school year with uncertain times. We need to make sure that families have the support they need to adjust to whatever the plans are for the school district and to make sure that kids are taken care of so parents can go back to work.
The child care grants and scholarships become available August 19th at covidrelief.mt.gov. The payments to child care facilities will begin to be processed on September 1st. For the University of Montana faculty and staff, this is both an exciting and challenging time as they make final preparations for classes to resume for the first time since the pandemic hit last spring. We talked with UM President Seth Bodner in an exclusive interview this week about how the university has adapted and how the pandemic might be impacting enrollment trends, revenues, and plans for the future. Well, President Bodner, thanks for spending some time with us to talk a little bit about everything that's been going on to prepare for this fall. This was not a typical summer vacation, and I know a lot of the efforts were to really try to get operationally. Where are we at in terms of now school getting underway and looking at that model anyway?
Yeah, thanks. No, it was the farthest thing from a typical summer, and for many, the word vacation was not a part of people's summer. And we have students moving in this week, and really our whole focus over the past 6 months as we've been dealing with the effects of this pandemic, central to what we've been doing is, of course, protecting the health and safety of the UM family, but enabling our students to keep on learning. And for some, that means a remote option. For some, that means in person. For some, that means a mix. And for our team here at the university, that has meant adapting how we do things, adapting how our residence halls work, adapting how our classrooms are configured, adapting how our faculty members teach their courses. And I'll tell you, this has been, I think, for many of us, one of the most challenging periods of our professional lives, but I tell you, it's also been the most awe-inspiring and humbling time in my career, and I feel so grateful to the people on this campus, our staff members, of course, who've been working day and night to get our residence halls ready, to get our classrooms ready, to make sure we have the IT bandwidth to support students remotely. And of course, to our faculty members who have bent over backwards last spring bringing courses online, this summer preparing their courses, for an in-person modality, for a hybrid modality, for a remote modality to accommodate students who have different needs. And I tell you, I am so grateful to our faculty members, to our staff members for the ways they've stepped up to serve this community as well. I will tell you, UM, as you probably saw, was just ranked as one of the top 10 universities that is addressing the COVID-19 crisis. And so not only are we serving our students, our faculty members, our staff members have really been stepping up in a big way in serving this community, and I've never been prouder to be part of the UM family.
And really, it was not a case of one size fits all. You think of all the disciplines on this campus, you have to adapt in a myriad of ways, don't you really?
Absolutely. I think adaptability and flexibility are two key words as we've dealt with this pandemic. And again, we say to our students, your dreams are too big to put on hold, and we want you, and we want to enable you to keep on learning through this pandemic. And that means we as a university have to be flexible in meeting our students' needs. Again, preparing for those students who want to be remote. We have options for those students. Preparing options for a hybrid experience. Preparing to make sure that we have safe in-person options for our students, and that does vary by discipline. That's a large lecture can be done remotely. Work in a cadaver lab, understanding human physiology, a little bit tougher to do remotely. And so we're figuring out ways to do that safely in a socially distanced manner. And again, my huge thanks to our faculty and our staff for their work in that effort.
I know you've told me before that one of the concerns was opening, reopening, going back and forth and back and forth. Testing, I know, is going to be a big part of the safety aspect of this thing. Speak a little bit about that and how that affects not only students but faculty and the remainder of the UM staff.
Yeah, well, testing's a key part of this, and as we've been working on this over the past months, we've been doing so in close coordination with medical and public health officials here on UM's campus, which we're very blessed to have tremendous expertise here on this campus, but also at the local level and at the state level. And all of our testing plans have been informed by those experts. And as you saw last week, we're grateful for the governor's support of those efforts to make sure that for symptomatic patients or known contacts, that we can get test results quickly, that we have that supply available, that we have the process in place for students here on campus to be able to get a test quickly and to be able to know their results. And we're working together with state officials and experts here on campus to look at smart surveillance strategies to understand the prevalence of the virus here on campus and prevent groups of cases from spreading into larger issues. That's really the approach, and again, I'm grateful for the expertise here on campus and the partnership with officials at the state level to get this right.
You had talked last spring when we first went into the pandemic. We talked about this message that if someone wasn't able to go out of state to another institution, that UM might be an option. How many people do you think students have taken advantage of that? What's the mix, and what's our enrollment picture look like going into this fall?
Well, in some ways it's hard to know right now. I think a lot of families and a lot of students are still in decision mode at this point. I will tell you that we have, again, our core has been, we're here to enable you to continue to pursue your dreams even during a pandemic. And so our key has been, we're going to provide flexible options that meet your needs as students. And I would tell you, I think we have seen some Missoula students who've said, I want to stay a little closer to home. In fact, just 5 minutes ago here on the Oval, I saw a young woman and her parents here from Bozeman, and she had just moved in, and so I really like the opportunities here at the university, and I think students see the value in UM education, an education that makes you ready on day one of graduation for success in that first job, but also prepares you to think critically, to communicate effectively, to work in teams, and to be successful in that fifth or sixth or seventh job out of school. And so we're still focused on how are we setting our students up for success, and that means adapting our offerings to students who maybe want to stay closer to home, but really having at the core the success of our students.
When we look at the revenue picture, because operationally that's always, you've got an institution run, a business to run essentially here. Mm-hmm. How are we doing? A lot of attention was paid to the postponement of fall sports, and obviously that's a revenue situation, but where are we at financially as we look into this challenging year?
Mm-hmm. Well, the University of Montana has actually, we've been excited about the progress we've been making. In fact, some of our enrollment numbers, the retention of students, the students that are not just coming here but staying here, we've seen significant improvements. In fact, our fall to spring numbers from last year of persistence of students, they're the best we've seen in a decade, second best in 20 years. So we're making a lot of gains here. The uncertainty of COVID has created challenges for the university, just like every institution of higher ed across the country, frankly. So we've made some adjustments. We've reduced in certain areas, and as we look into the fall, and we see how that enrollment picture shakes out, and as we kind of understand the magnitude of impacts in other areas, we're going to have to make some budget adjustments. But I will tell you, what will be central to everything we do is the success of our students. And it's not just reductions, it's reallocations. There are going to be certain areas where we're going to add resources. There are going to be certain areas where we reduce resources to best serve our students. And I tell you, you see a rejuvenation on this campus. And we're out here on the Oval. The Oval is freshly redone. Urey Lecture Hall. Many in the community remember what it's like to be in Urey Lecture Hall. That lecture hall was redone this summer. It's beautiful. 14-foot LED screen, new seating, Panzer Residence Hall. Beautiful remodeling of that residence hall that students will move into a brand new refreshed residence hall, and we're not done. We're actually going to do some refreshing of this campus. So this is a place where we're investing, and we're investing to best meet our students' needs.
When you came on campus, you launched a fairly extensive visioning, kind of look at what do we do and how do we do it, and everybody was involved in that. Has the pandemic slowed that effort at all, or has it actually proven this methodology that we've got to be adaptable going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really focused us in on this question of how best do we serve the needs of our students and the needs of this community in the state of Montana. And as you may have heard, we launched earlier this year a team called a University Design Team. And I charged that team with answering the question, what should a flagship of the future look like? How as an institution of higher education, a public institution of higher education, that really has at its core this idea of inclusive prosperity. How do we foster that for our community? And that means absolutely thinking about our students' success, getting them ready for that first job out of school, but making them successful over their entire career where they're going to have to adapt. But how also are we thinking about the needs of learners at all stages of their careers? The days of I went to school from 18 to 22 and then I didn't have to get any more education, those days are over. The world's changing quickly, and we as a university are here to help all members of this community and learners of all ages to continue to upskill, to reskill, to reinvent themselves over the course of their entire careers. And so that's something we're continuing to think about. And frankly, the disruption and the uncertainty brought about by this pandemic are yet another example of the adaptability that again, everyone in this community has to have, and the great work that I think we're obligated to do for this state, and we're really proud to do for this state.
And I know one thing the pandemic has not slowed is the discussions about the future of the campus, new facilities, new things. Yep. We talked about the forestry building, dining hall. There are a lot of things that are in that mix as we look forward and beyond the pandemic.
Yeah, thanks, and it's exciting, and we're dealing obviously with the day-to-day challenges of COVID-19. But one thing I've learned as a leader is you got to deal with the here and now. But if you're not thinking about what's going to happen on the other side of this pandemic, you're going to get caught flat-footed. And so, yeah, we're making resource adjustments. We've got budget challenges we're working our way through, but we're also thinking about the future. And as you may recall, last fall we refinanced the university's debt. We freed up some capital, make some important investments on this campus. We're standing here on a refurbished Oval. We've mentioned the great upgrades to Urey Lecture Hall, to Panzer Residence Hall, and last Board of Regents meeting, we got approval to begin design of a new dining hall and student service center here on campus. So this is going to be a campus that continues to refresh itself and renew itself to best serve our students, to best serve the needs of this community. So we're excited about the path ahead.
Thanks for joining us, and we wish you the best of luck this fall and a safe fall to everybody here on the UM campus.
Thanks, Dennis. We appreciate it.
The University of Montana was buzzing Wednesday as students began moving back to campus for the fall semester, but as to be expected, the move-in process and housing in general looks a lot different this year. MTN's Megan Mannering has the story.
Throughout the coming week, almost 1,300 students will set up camp at the University of Montana in one of its 8 residence halls. What's been a ghost town since March will soon look a lot more like the college campus that it is.
We ended without being able to say really goodbye to our students in the spring semester. So I'm just incredibly excited that students are going to be coming back.
As eager as UM staff like Sandy Curtis may be for the return of students, housing will see some major changes this year.
Well, one of the first things that we actually took a look at is how can we reduce the density on each one of our floors in the residence halls.
A floor that has capacity to hold, say, 40 students will now only house 30 students.
The second thing is, what is our cleaning protocol and what are we doing? So our staff will be continuously cleaning throughout the day.
Even the move-in process itself has been modified.
Normally we bring students in pretty much on the same day when we do check-in, and this year we'll actually be doing a staggered check-in for our students.
They'll slowly work their way onto campus until classes begin next Wednesday, eliminating a lot of that chaos you normally see during one big move-in day.
And finally, we actually ask students to ship items in advance. Our staff has been busy actually over the course of this last month of actually delivering those packages to each one of their rooms.
The housing staff has worked tirelessly to put students in the safest possible position as they move back to campus here. Now, Curtis says the responsibility belongs to the students themselves.
We can put all the signage up in the world. We can put up our plexiglass barriers. We can our signs on the floor that say please stay 6 feet away, but unless everybody does their part, it's not going to work.
In Missoula, Megan Mannering, MTN News.
UM housing staff say they were fortunate to not have to turn anyone away from living on campus this fall. They also say extra space for students is available who may need to quarantine during the semester. And students at Montana State University started moving on the Bozeman campus earlier this week. MTN's Annie Johnson joined the Bobcats for move-in week.
It's day 3 here at MSU's move-in week, and so far things have been going according to plan.
Oh, it's been great. I just got here not too long ago, but everybody was super helpful. Yeah, super nice. They just gave me a cart and put all my stuff in there and found my room.
Even the university's president stopped by to welcome students and to join in on the week-long fun.
This is not a moving day, this is a moving week. We decided to spread it out in 7 days rather than just 1 day.
And though the semester hasn't officially started yet, Dr. Cruzado says she's hopeful students and faculty will be able to get through the semester.
We're going to try to do it throughout the entire semester. We're taking it, in little portions.
But they are ready for the unfavorable possibilities as well.
We now have, of course, in addition to our plans for isolation and quarantine, because we expect that there will be cases, right? We want to be realistic about it, but we want to believe that we know how to handle it.
Plans which include housing for students living on campus who may have to quarantine.
We have set aside special units for quarantine. So what we will do in that case is that the student will be relocated from the residence life here or his or her unit to a separate location.
Despite the unknown or potential concerns, this incoming freshman is all moved in and ready to start the school year.
I'm just really excited that it is happening, so I'm stoked to be here. Really just excited that MSU especially is putting the effort in to make it in session, and so really excited about that for sure.
Students will be able to move onto campus up until Sunday, August 16th. Reporting at Montana State University, Annie Johnson, MTN News.
In Helena, students will be back in class at Carroll College this week as well. The university taking steps to prevent the spread of COVID-19 in residence halls and classrooms. MTN's Alexia Aguayo shows us what's new for students on campus.
These tents represent one of 2 testing centers on Carroll College for students to be tested for COVID-19. It is one of many changes the college has implemented as fall classes begin next week.
One difference is that all students coming to campus must be tested.
We are seeing a nice 24 to 48 hour turnaround on those tests that we've turned in thus far. And so that's a key part of the move-in process for everybody this year. Our off-campus students can also access testing by coming to one of the testing centers.
Faculty and staff can also be tested through their healthcare provider. There are also new isolation rooms across the campus to house any student that tests positive.
we have rooms set aside so that if a student was positive and they needed to go into isolation, we could go ahead and move them into that facility that has, you know, all of the things that they would need to take care of themselves. They would have their food service provided for them. And most importantly, that they can actually then get in contact with their faculty members, and our faculty members are helped to start working with them right away so that they don't miss academic time.
Classrooms will also look different. Each room will be at half capacity, socially distanced, and cleaned in between each use by faculty and staff. Masks are required upon entering any building on campus.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you're not flexible, you're just not going to make it this fall. So we're doing our best right now.
Some students have already moved into the dorms and apartments at Carroll College. This weekend, incoming freshmen will have that opportunity. Only 15 students are allowed to move in at one time. In Helena, I'm Lexi Guayo, MTM News.
On-campus activities are also available there at Carroll College, but the number of people who can attend will be limited. The fall semester is right around the corner for college students in Billings, and unlike the other summer semesters, they'll be coming back to campus. MTN's Shaquille Kozar finds out how they can plan to keep everyone safe during the pandemic.
The grounds are manicured, and faculty and staff are gearing up for the 2020 fall semester. But with the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic, college campuses across the country have since switched to an online learning platform and are now implementing new plans to ensure the safety of students and staff when they return. Among these campuses are two Montana colleges, Montana State University Billings and Rocky Mountain College, who offer Q2 their safe back-to-school plans.
We are trying to plan for every eventuality. As I've mentioned, we've got faculty who are working closely with students in their classes to adjust to their needs. We have classrooms that are flexible. We have course modalities which are flexible. If we should, knock on wood, have to go back to a fully online learning environment, we are ready to do that. That is not our preference. That is not our purpose. We are an institution that's open and ready to go, and we look forward to having students back on campus. But the planning for the change is something that has become the norm rather than the exception these days.
Like all colleges in the state, Montana State University Billings has their own plan for when students arrive back to campus in the fall. Just 5 minutes down the road, Rocky Mountain College has their own safe back-to-school plan.
We're proud of a Rocky Mountain College education, and we do not want to damage that or change that in any particular way. We do have a few faculty members that will be teaching online courses, but really very few. And that's a result of their own personal health needs, that they would just be in a high-risk population, and so teaching online is the better option for them. And some of our classes will go to a hybrid model, so there'll be some online components as well as synchronous face-to-face kinds of instruction. But generally speaking, Rocky Mountain College education this fall will be very much the same as it was last fall and the fall before that, and hopefully next fall.
Montana State University Billings and Rocky Mountain College have both taken steps to eliminate faculty and student travel. They've implemented strict mask-on policies while in common areas, offered instructors the option to maintain an online learning platform, and even implemented new policies to keep residential students safe while in dorms. With the fall semester just weeks away, students can expect some modality changes, but the same education from both campuses. In Billings, Shaquille Kozar, MTN News.
Montana economists predict unemployment rates will improve when students go back to school this fall. Barbara Wagner, the chief economist with Montana Department of Labor and Industries, says in some districts, schools are the biggest employer. Wagner says last year, Montana public schools employed around 26,000 people. She says that number doubles to almost 40,000 when you add in private schools and universities. Also, the schools reopening allows some parents to return to their jobs.
We know that there's 100,000 kids whose only parent is in the workforce. So when schools closed, those parents needed to figure something else out, right? They had to take time off work. Maybe the kids went to grandma's.
Overall, Wagner says Montana's economy is recovering well compared to the rest of the U.S. She says Montana is at 7.1% unemployed. The country is about 10% at the month of July. However, larger areas like the Flathead that rely heavily on tourism still have a ways to go. Flathead County's unemployment was at 16% in April and 9% in June. And speaking of jobs, Job Service Montana has tips on how you can increase your chances of getting one through the hidden job market. Job Service Montana defines the hidden job market as those jobs that aren't yet posted online with employers who want to use their own network to hire instead of a random pool. Xiaoyi Wang says the hidden job market can happen in any industry and takes up about 80% of all jobs. She says applying for jobs can be discouraging, and the best way to gain access to the hidden jobs is to expand your network. While it's difficult to network during coronavirus, take advantage of as many networking opportunities as you can.
Networking today in this condition, it might be just Zoom, and they're still going on. So being able to seek out those opportunities to network with people and letting everyone you already know, letting everyone in your network be aware that you're available and you're searching for a certain type of work is really important.
Wang reminds people to come prepared. Make sure your resume and cover letter are up to date too. And she recommends researching your local chamber events and job fairs to see where local networking opportunities are available. Even with the numerous grants and other programs to assist people during the pandemic, no system is perfect, and some in need have been left without support. MTN's John Riley caught up with Good Samaritan Ministries in Helena and how they've been catching people who fell through the cracks in the system.
Good Samaritan Ministries and Our Place say it's not been easy navigating COVID, but throughout it all, they managed to maintain most of their services.
When the shutdown first happened, all the agencies closed, and Our Place thought about closing, but we decided to go a slightly different route. There was just so much need in the community, we couldn't quite do it.
Our Place is a drop-in center overseen by Good Samaritan Ministries. They help people dealing with mental health challenges, homelessness, or other struggles in order to find support. Coleman was the only one to stay on at the beginning of the pandemic in order to provide those services. He cut his hours to around 25 to 30 hours a week, which meant less money in his paycheck and prevented him from qualifying for unemployment assistance. He's also a student and didn't receive a stimulus check. And then his car broke down.
Then the avalanche started to where I just couldn't pay everything every month. And so eventually it got to the point to where I was just so far behind, like I had to make the decision, do we keep the power on? Or do we pay the rent?
Even though he regularly helps others, he still struggled with admitting he himself needed help.
So it was a little humbling at first, but then I thought, you know what? You just need help. This happened. It was beyond your control. Go ask, which was the hardest thing to do.
Good Samaritan Assistance Ministries were able to help Coleman with his rent and began getting out of the ever-deepening hole that he found himself in. Coleman's story is similar to the hundreds of families Good Samaritan helps every week. Most found themselves in mounting debt due to unforeseen circumstances, even before the pandemic began. Executive Director Teresa Ortega says as long as they're able, they will continue to live up to their namesake of being Good Samaritans.
We like to follow our services to serve the most in need through our community, the whole aspect of that. And those usually are the people that are ill or downtrodden or homeless, and we'll keep going no matter what.
Good Samaritan is able to assist people with gaining stability in their lives through rental assistance, vehicle repair, and even dental help. The state of Montana is also offering emergency housing assistance through their COVID Relief Fund. And before we go, MTN has launched the Rebound Montana Facebook group. It's a statewide resource to help keep you and your family informed and help you navigate these uncertain times due to the coronavirus. Thanks for joining us here on this Rebound Montana report. Have a great day.